I want to show you the process that I use to achieve all of the colors that you see in all of my murals. First, let's talk about the kind of paint I use. All of these that you see here are interior water-based paint and acrylic latex. They all will mix together so long as they're water-based. What they do all have in common is that they're all a low sheen, satin or eggshell. Some brands of paint consider satin and eggshell to be one and the same. Others will put eggshell just below satin. But what it is, it's not very shiny. But it's not flat. Flat is a little too much on the chalky side for me, and it creates a dull lightness to the mirror that I don't like. And if it's a gloss or a semi-gloss, it creates a glare or reflection that interferes with the picture that I also don't like. Let's talk about my logical process for getting to the colors that I need. In order to demonstrate this best, I'm going to start by making a color wheel. These are the primaries that I use: red, yellow, blue, and white. And then I bring in these extra magenta and a bright green, and I'll show you why I bring those in a minute. Let's start with the red. I dip it right in there, and I put it on the wall. And this is just how I do it when I'm painting murals too. Right to the wall. Skips the palette. It just eliminates a step and allows me to move quicker. So next I'm going to do yellow right here. Get a clean brush so I have nice vivid colors here. Okay, now when I mix red and yellow, just like a rainbow, it's going to make orange. I particularly like this yellow. It's really bright. And I can get real vivid greens and oranges. Now watch, I'm not afraid to dip this red brush in the yellow. The amount of pigment that this will cause in the yellow can is very minimal compared to the pigment, the yellow that's already in there. Now if I was just mixing small amounts on a palette, it would contaminate it a lot worse. Okay, so here's my bright orange. Now, since the red and the yellow are primaries, the combination of the two is called a secondary. So now I've got red and yellow primary colors and orange in the middle for a secondary. Now let's move to my third primary color, which will be blue. Now you'll see that my blue here is a very deep blue. So a lot of times when I'm painting pictures, I'll be adding white to this one. But not while I'm making this color wheel. And you can see, you know, this side-to-side motion that I'm using, it's kind of an X pattern with the flat side of the brush. I use that when I'm putting paint on for murals or for any kind of custom finish. This is just kind of my standard technique here. Now when I hit that with the yellow, it's going to create a real nice green for me. This is the one I'll mess up. Okay. Now obviously, since this blue is such a powerful tint, I'm not going to be using this brush to paint anything yellow now. One thing to understand about these tints is that they are not pure. These are really nice bright tones, but they're not pure. So some of these secondary colors are going to have some degree of brown in them. So now let's blend the blue and the red and see what happens. See, my red contaminated with yellow. But watch, this red is such a powerful tint, it's really not going to matter. I'll just put red over that. Do you see this dark result that I'm getting? This is almost black. And so, if I need purple, well, purple you can get by mixing red and blue. But that purple is not going to do it if I'm making a bright flower or something that I need to be bright shades of pink and purple in the foreground of a painting. So, the reason that happens is because this is not a pure bright blue. It's a very deep blue. And this red also is not pure. And the impurities of them and the intensity of both of these causes a cancellation of colors, which causes this brown. And so, like this red has, this red actually has like some orange and purple and different things already in it because it's not a pure red. This blue probably has some purple and green already in it. Now, so I don't confuse you too much, let me explain something. Now that we have this, we've got two sets of colors, primaries and secondaries. I'm going to draw a line so that you can see this. And look, I always keep a bucket of water handy right here. Okay, I've got that down on the floor so that I can kick it over and make a mess in case the job starts going right. Red to the yellow to the blue. So this triangle is just pointing to the primary colors that I started with. And we're going to go purple to the green to the orange. Okay, and we've got the Star of David. Colors that are directly across each other on the color wheel, like these, this would be orange and blue, are considered opposites. So the nature of opposites is that when you mix them together, they cancel each other out. So you've heard me talking about cancellation. This is what I'm talking about. This is important to understand. Green opposite to red, directly across each other on the color wheel. These are considered opposites, and purple directly across from yellow, considered opposites. And so same effect on all these three pairs of opposites. To better understand it, colors are wavelengths, and if you in a bucket of water have waves, well, when waves cross, if a low point, which is called a trough, meets a high point, which is called a crest, then you end up canceling those two waves out. So that's okay not to understand all that, but what's important is that you do end up with a very dull result that's brown. Any of these three combinations will give you kind of a different kind of brown, but it won't be a nice bright color. I use that concept when I'm painting a picture. And so now for the last thing on the color wheel before I start demonstrating how to use these in a real picture painting scenario, let me show you when I bring in my extra bright tones. Because I was unable to get a bright enough purple, I get magenta. So magenta is a tint that, just like the red tint, yellow tint, blue tint, I just get paint that's tinted with magenta. So wherever they get this tint, I don't know, but it's a lot more pure towards the purple color frequency than the blue or the red is. And so it's a great tool for getting purple or pink. Let's just go right around in here where the purple is. Add a little bit of blue, because this magenta is closer to red than it is to blue, so I'm going to add some blue so that I can be a purple in the middle. See, a much brighter, much nicer purple, and if I add white, then you'll be able to see it more clearly. This gets me a much truer, prettier purple. Okay, so then other than that, I've got the green. Now, green is the same story. This actually is a pretty nice green, pretty bright. But if you bring in something that is just green tint, tints are going to be your brightest color rather than a mix of tints. So this is just green tint and a base. And which brings me to another point that I should cover, is that all of these, I go into the paint store and I say, will you give me your brightest red tint and only that tint in a gallon of paint and max it out. And so they just take the red, which would be, at Sherwin-Williams, they call it their exterior red, but it's just their brightest red, and 12 ounces of that in a gallon. Just put it in there, fill it up, and that's where I get a red like this. But this one is Benjamin Moore. Anyway, watch how much brighter this green is than the brightest green that I was able to get here. You can see that I have a great habit going of putting brushes across the tops of paint cans. See, a much truer, brighter green right in the middle there. So by bringing in extra tints, I can get brighter secondaries if I need them, but I don't necessarily need them. I should also cover black. Whenever I need my deepest shadow, I've already used this on my dark shadows, but let's say I want to really make things pop a little extra, I need a true black because it is darker than this. So that's when I might bring in this guy right here. That is, I'm just going to put this on the floor and show you. I'll just dip my finger in this and I'll just show you this black here. The difference between this and what's already on there, how much darker it is. You can see that spot there, significantly darker. And when they're dry and there's not any glare or anything on it, you can see it even more clear. So we could go, you know, put it around here. Alright, so the next step is how do I use this understanding as I'm mixing colors in a picture. Let's get into that on the next video.